Drop your weapon now.
Get on the ground!
Drop your weapon.
Naomi Carter, a blind black federal judge, has her loyal service dog Justice gunned down by police who label him aggressive, igniting a chain of events that exposes the raw face of systemic racism and abuse of power. In the aftermath of grief and silence from officials, Char 1-2, Naomi faces institutional betrayal as officers mock her pain while the city shields them, Ch3. But instead of folding, she channels her loss into resistance with allies like Marcus and Claire, Ch4-5, sparking protests that escalate into violent crackdowns where tear gas and bullets turn the streets into battlegrounds. Ch6-7, standing against brutality, Naomi becomes the unshakable voice of her people, leading the courtroom fight that convicts the officers despite the system's protection, Ch8-9, and as murals, chants, and reforms rise across the nation, she transforms personal tragedy into a lasting movement where justice's name becomes eternal, a verdict carried by thousands who now see more clearly because she refused to be silenced. Cheer 10. The late afternoon air was warm, carrying the faint scent of cut grass. Naomi Carter walked slowly, cane folded in one hand, the other resting gently on the harness of her golden retriever, Justice. Steady. Boy, she murmured. Justice guided her down Maplewood Lane with steady paws. Naomi wore a simple navy suit, her work attire still crisp after a long day in court. Her dark glasses hid the scars of blindness she had carried since her 20s. The neighborhood was calm, but Naomi felt tension in the air, like a pause before thunder. "Ma'am, stop right there." The shout was sharp, masculine, laced with authority. Naomi froze. Justice halted, ears perked. "Who's there?" Naomi asked, keeping her voice calm. "Police." "Step away from the dog." Naomi tilted her head, confused. "This is my service animal. I'm blind." "What's the issue?" Another voice cut in, harsher. "We got a call about a suspicious individual." "Keep your hands visible." Naomi lifted both hands slightly. "I'm holding a harness." "I'm Judge Naomi Carter, federal court." The first officer scoffed. "Judge, huh?" "Cute story." Justice gave a low growl. Naomi felt the vibration through the harness. "Quiet, Justice," she whispered. Her hand tightened. "Ma'am, control your dog." The second officer barked. "He's trained. He's alert because you're shouting at me. Step back." "I cannot step back without my dog." "I cannot see you." The silence after her words was heavy. Naomi's chest rose and fell, heart racing. The first officer muttered, "This doesn't look right. Why's she out here?" Dark glasses, cane, could be hiding something. Naomi swallowed. "I'm walking home. That's all. Please lower your voices, you're frightening my guide." Justice barked once, sharp, protective. The officers reacted instantly. "Gun. Don't shoot, he's—" Naomi screamed. Bang. The crack shattered the stillness. Naomi stumbled backward, knees buckling as the harness went slack. Justice collapsed beside her, a yelp cut short. "No!" Naomi's scream tore the street open. She dropped to her knees, clutching at fur already growing cold. He was my eyes. He was my life. Neighbors rushed to doors, phones recording. One officer muttered, "The animal was aggressive." Naomi's sobs shook her body. "He guided me. You murdered him." "Ma'am," the second officer said flatly. "You need to calm down." "Calm?" Her voice broke into ragged fury. "You shot a blind woman's service dog because you couldn't tell the difference between loyalty and threat." The first officer glanced at phones raised in the distance. His jaw tightened. "Report will say the dog lunged, self-defense." Naomi lifted her tear-streaked face toward the sound of his voice. "You'll answer for this," she whispered. The scene froze in time, sirens echoing in the distance, cameras capturing her broken figure cradling Justice, and two armed men already rewriting the truth. The next morning, Naomi sat on the edge of her couch, hands resting on the leash Justice would never wear again. The apartment felt cavernous without the soft pad of his paws. A knock rattled the door. "Naomi? It's Claire." Her friend and fellow judge, Claire Donovan, stepped inside cautiously. The smell of coffee and roses clung to her. Naomi didn't move. "He's gone." "I know," Claire whispered. She set a hand on Naomi's shoulder. "The department called it an unfortunate incident." "Unfortunate." Naomi's voice cracked. "They executed my dog in front of me. That's not unfortunate, it's criminal. Hours later, Naomi sat across from internal affairs detectives. Their voices were sterile, rehearsed. We understand your distress, Judge Carter, but the officers reported the animal growled and lunged. Naomi kept her tone steady. I told them I was blind. I identified myself as a federal judge. Justice was on harness. He obeyed commands. He never lunged. He barked, because they screamed at me. Detective Alvarez scribbled notes. Unfortunately, there's no body cam footage. Files were corrupted in transfer. Naomi's breath hitched. How convenient. The second detective shifted uncomfortably. Do you wish to file a complaint? I'm filing more than a complaint, Naomi snapped. I'm demanding accountability. This isn't just about my dog. It's about officers who cannot distinguish threat from disability. Back at the precinct, laughter filled the locker room. You see her face when the mutt dropped? One officer chuckled. Yeah, she screamed like Banshee. Damn near dropped to the sidewalk. Unions got us covered. Aggressive animal, end of story. Crazy blind lady should have stayed home anyway. Their voices carried no guilt, just the comfort of a system designed to shield them. That night, Naomi sat with Claire and another friend, Marcus, a community organizer. Marcus leaned forward. Naomi, you have to take this public. They won't listen otherwise, Claire frowned. Marcus, don't push her. Public fights can get ugly. They'll dig into her personal life, twist everything. Naomi's hands clenched the leash. They already twisted it. Justice's death is just a line in their paperwork. Claire spoke softly. I just don't want you to lose your reputation, Naomi. Federal judges aren't supposed to what? Naomi's voice rose. To cry, to be human? To demand justice? Silence hung heavy. Marcus finally said, They fear you, Naomi. Not because you're blind. Because you see more than they ever will. Later, alone in the dark, Naomi whispered into emptiness. Justice, I can't even find the bathroom without you. How do I fight a system that calls your loyalty a threat? Her phone buzzed. A voicemail from the precinct. This is Sergeant Miller. Following review, the officers acted in accordance with protocol. Case closed. Naomi listened again. Case closed. She gritted her teeth, wiped her tears, and whispered into the silence. No, it's only just begun. Naomi sat in the judge's chambers the following week, the smell of polished wood and ink filling the air. A closed-door meeting had been called. She could feel the tension before a single word was spoken. Naomi, Judge Whitmore began, his voice careful. The incident with your dog, we sympathize. But you must understand, our roles demand restraint. Naomi tilted her head. Restraint? They murdered my service dog in broad daylight. Whitmore cleared his throat. I mean public restraint. Going to the media would compromise your standing. Federal judges cannot appear partisan. Another colleague chimed in, a younger white judge named Daniels. It's not about race, Naomi. These things happen. Don't make it bigger than it is. Naomi's lips tightened. Not about race? You think they would have shot a white lawyer's Labrador in front of his children? Or was it only my blackness, my blindness, that made me dangerous to them? Silence spread like smoke. Claire shifted beside her. Naomi, they're asking you to protect yourself. But they don't realize silence won't protect you. That evening, Naomi attended a small gathering at Marcus's community center. The walls were lined with photographs of civil rights marches. Judge Carter, an elderly woman said warmly, pressing Naomi's hands. I heard what happened. We're with you. The room filled with nods, murmurs of support. But outside, across social media, the storm brewed differently. Headline, Blind Federal Judge Accuses Police of Racism After Dog Shooting. Comment section, she's playing the race card. Tragic, but cops were just doing their job. Maybe she shouldn't have been walking alone. Naomi scrolled with a clenched jaw as Marcus read aloud the worst ones. His anger rising. They're twisting you into some hysterical caricature. They want you silent. Naomi's chest tightened. And my colleagues want the same thing. Stay quiet. Keep my seat safe. Pretend my blindness makes me grateful, not angry. The next day, Naomi received a call. Naomi, it's Judge Callahan. She smiled faintly. He had mentored her years ago. Callahan. I needed a friendly voice. His tone was cautious. I'll give you one, but also advice. Don't push this case. The officers have the union. You'll be outnumbered. Her throat went dry. So I should swallow it? Like every other black person told to wait for the right time. This isn't betrayal, Naomi. It's survival. The bench isn't colorblind, no matter how much we wish it. Don't risk your robe over a dog. She hung up before rage drowned her. That night, Claire visited again. Naomi sat stiffly, her cane across her lap. They don't see you, Claire said softly. They see me just fine, Naomi corrected bitterly. They see my color. They see my cane. And they think those things make me weak, Claire hesitated. Not everyone is against you, but some people are afraid. Even afraid of standing with you. Naomi's jaw trembled. Fear is a luxury they can afford. I can't. Justice died because men in uniform decided a black blind woman didn't deserve trust. Her voice broke into quiet fury. And my colleagues, men I thought were allies, tell me to bury it. That betrayal cuts deeper than the bullet that killed my dog. Claire reached for her hand. Then don't let them bury you, Naomi. Make them hear your voice. That night, Naomi sat alone at her dining table. The leash still rested by her hand, heavy with memory. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Marcus. When you're ready, the community is waiting. Don't fight alone. Naomi typed slowly, deliberately. I'm ready. The screen glowed in the darkness, and in the silence she felt the faintest echo, Justice's bark, urging her forward. The press conference was staged like theater. Blue flags hung behind the podium. Uniformed officers lined the stage in rigid rows, faces grim, eyes fixed straight ahead. On behalf of the department, Chief Rowan said into the microphones, we regret the loss of life in last week's incident, but make no mistake, our officers acted heroically when confronted by an aggressive animal. The cameras clicked like rapid gunfire. The dog lunged without warning, Rowan continued. Our officers made a split-second decision to protect the public. We stand by their actions. Naomi watched the broadcast from her living room, her jaw clenched so tightly it ached. Justice hadn't lunged. He had stood between her and danger like he always did. And now his loyalty was being rewritten as violence. Reporters swarmed her the next morning. Judge Carter, do you feel the officers targeted you because of race? Are you filing a lawsuit against the city? Do you regret escalating the encounter? Naomi stopped mid-step on the courthouse stairs. Escalating? The crowd quieted. I identified myself. I raised my hands. I begged them not to shoot my dog. That is escalation? Microphones pushed closer. I am a blind black woman, she said steadily. I did not escalate. I existed. And that was enough for them to pull a trigger. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some reporters scribbled furiously. Others smirked, already shaping her words into controversy. That evening, Naomi's phone buzzed with an interview clip. She played it, listening to her own voice replayed on a news channel. Cut, edited, stripped of its meaning. Anchor. Judge Carter claimed she was targeted for being black and blind. Escalating tensions with police further. Naomi dropped the phone onto her couch, disgust twisting in her stomach. Meanwhile, in the precinct locker room, the officers chuckled. She went on TV again. Yeah, saw the clip. They made her sound hysterical. Perfect. Media's eating out of the chief's hand. Aggressive animal. Case closed. One officer leaned back, smirking. Crazy thing is, she's actually a judge. Imagine being blind and thinking you can run a courtroom. Joke writes itself, laughter echoed, careless and cruel. That night, Marcus called. His voice was urgent. Naomi, you need to see something. Well, hear it. She heard papers rustling, then Marcus reading. Internal memo. Circulated last year. If body cam footage jeopardizes officer safety or department reputation, protocols allow immediate deletion pending review. Naomi's breath caught. You're saying they delete evidence as policy? A whistleblower sent it to me. He's scared, but he wants you to know this isn't an accident. Justice's death isn't just about two bad cops, it's the entire system covering itself. Naomi pressed the phone tighter to her ear. Who is this whistleblower? Marcus hesitated. He can't come forward. Not yet, they'll bury him. Or worse, Naomi's pulse hammered. So I'm supposed to fight shadows while they rewrite reality? Marcus's voice softened. You're not alone. You've got us. And now you've got proof this isn't just your story, it's bigger. The following morning, Naomi returned to chambers. Judge Whitmore intercepted her in the hallway. You went to the media. Yes, she said coldly. You've compromised the court's neutrality. Do you realize what you're risking? Naomi lifted her chin. Neutrality is silence dressed up as virtue. And silence didn't save justice. Whitmore exhaled sharply, turning away. Don't expect sympathy from the bench when this explodes. Naomi's cane tapped the floor firmly. I don't need their sympathy. I need the truth. That evening, she stood in her apartment, the city buzzing faintly outside her windows. Her phone rang again. A blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. A low voice whispered, Judge Carter, they'll come after you. They've erased footage before and they'll do it again. Be careful who you trust. The line went dead. Naomi's fingers trembled. She set the phone down slowly, breathing shallow, her chest tight. The darkness around her seemed heavier. But inside it, her resolve burned brighter. They can twist the story, she whispered. They can erase the footage. But they can't erase me. The auditorium buzzed with murmurs. Folding chairs lined the community center, filled with citizens, activists, and city officials. At the front sat two smug officers in uniform, arms crossed like stone statues. Naomi's cane tapped across the wooden stage. She reached the podium, hands gripping its edge like an anchor. The moderator cleared his throat. Judge Naomi Carter wishes to address the incident involving her service dog. The room hushed. Naomi drew a slow breath. Her voice trembled at first but steadied. I lost more than a dog that night. I lost the eyes that guided me through darkness. I lost safety, independence, dignity. Whispers rippled through the crowd. I told those officers I was blind. I told them who I was. And still they saw a threat. Not a judge. Not a woman. Just black. Just disposable. A murmur of agreement rose, claps echoing, though some shook their heads, arms folded. One officer in the front row smirked, whispering to his partner. Naomi heard it sharp as glass. She's really milking this. Naomi's spine stiffened. Milking? She repeated, her voice slicing through the room. All of you here should know this isn't about pity. This is about justice. Because if a federal judge can be humiliated, silenced, and stripped of dignity in public, what chance does the average citizen have? Applause burst, raw and angry. The mayor shifted uncomfortably on stage. Judge Carter, we understand your grief. But the city cannot understand? Naomi's voice rose, echoing through the hall. You cannot understand. Not unless you've been forced to cradle the body of your lifeline, shot dead because men with power mistook loyalty for threat. I am not here for your sympathy. I am here to say I will not be silent. The crowd erupted. Some stood and clapped, others booed, voices colliding in chaos. Naomi stood taller, chest heaving. I will sue this city. I will demand accountability. And I will not rest until justice has justice. That night, her phone would not stop buzzing. Claire called first. Naomi, the room exploded. People are split down the middle. Some are praising you, but others are calling you unstable. I don't care. Naomi's voice was steel. You should care, Claire pressed. You've painted a target on yourself. As if on cue, Naomi's voicemail lit up with new messages. She pressed play. A distorted male voice sneered. You better watch yourself, blind bitch. Next time it won't be the dog. She flinched, gripping the phone so tightly her knuckles burned. Another message. You've embarrassed the department. Stay in your lane or you'll regret it. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering against the hardwood floor. Naomi sat in the dark, hands covering her face. She whispered brokenly, Justice. They want me gone. They want me afraid. The silence pressed in, but in her mind she heard it again. That familiar bark, warm, protective, unyielding. Naomi lowered her hands. Her breathing steadied. They killed you to silence me, but I won't let them win. 2 days later, Naomi entered the courthouse. Reporters swarmed her again, questions firing like bullets. Judge Carter, are you afraid for your safety? Do you plan to recuse yourself from cases involving law enforcement? Naomi stopped at the top of the steps, cane planted firmly. I am afraid, she admitted. But fear does not absolve us of duty. Fear cannot silence truth. I will not bow to it. She turned and entered the courthouse, her back straight, her steps measured. And for the first time since Justice's death, the world seemed to follow her, not as a victim but as a force. The chants began outside City Hall before sunrise. Justice for justice! Justice for Naomi! The rhythm thundered against glass windows and marble walls. Naomi stood on the steps, cane tapping against the stone. The air pulsed with energy. college students with handmade posters, mothers pushing strollers, veterans in wheelchairs, neighbors who once only waved hello now holding signs with her name. Marcus appeared at her side. "This is bigger than us now," he said, awe softening his tone. Naomi tilted her head, hearing the roar of voices swell. "No, Marcus. This was always bigger than us. It just took blood on the pavement to wake them." The mayor stepped forward, flanked by security. His words boomed through a microphone. "Citizens, please. We acknowledge the tragedy. But protests do not heal wounds. Cooperation does." Boos erupted. Someone shouted, "Cooperation means cover-up." The mayor's voice wavered. "We will review training procedures." Naomi stepped forward, her own voice cutting through his like a blade. "Review? My service dog is dead. Your officers erased evidence. And you want to offer training modules?" The crowd roared approval. Naomi raised her hand, silencing them. "This is not about a single dog. This is about a system that cannot see a blind woman as human, a system that cannot see black life as worthy, and we will not be pacified with paperwork." The chants rose again, louder, fiercer. "No more silence. No more silence." That night, Naomi sat in Claire's kitchen, exhaustion heavy in her bones. Claire poured tea. "Naomi, you've become a symbol. Hashtags, rallies, donations. People are rallying around you." Naomi smiled bitterly. "A month ago, I was just another judge in a robe. Now I'm the blind woman whose dog was executed. That's what they'll remember." Marcus shook his head. "No, they'll remember you stood when others begged you to sit. They'll remember you turned grief into fire." Naomi traced the rim of her mug with a trembling hand. "And if that fire consumes me?" Marcus leaned closer. "Then at least it lit the path for others." The next weekend, the street swelled with protesters. Signs waved. Black, blind, brave. Twice justice for justice. Your silence is violence. Police lined the streets in riot gear. Shields gleamed under the sun. Naomi addressed the crowd from a makeshift platform. Her voice carried strong despite the fear knotted inside her. "They wanted me to stay quiet. My colleagues told me to wait. The media painted me angry, hysterical. But what is anger if not love refusing to die quietly? What is hysteria if not truth no longer willing to be hidden?" The crowd erupted, stomping and clapping. Naomi lifted her chin. "They killed justice to break me. Instead, they gave me an army." Later that night, Naomi sat alone, the noise of protest still echoing in her chest. She whispered into the silence, "Justice, I'm still afraid, but I'm not alone anymore." She felt the ghost of a bark in memory, steady and warm. The following morning, the mayor held another press briefing. His tie was loose, his eyes tired. "We urge calm. We are committed to transparency." But the words rang hollow. Reporters shouted over him. Why was body cam footage deleted? Why were officers with prior complaints still on duty? Is Judge Carter correct that the system protects its own over citizens' lives? The mayor stammered. We are reviewing those matters." The clip went viral. Naomi returned home that evening to find dozens of letters at her door. Some were hateful, scrawled slurs, threats of violence. But others were filled with gratitude. One read, "My son is autistic. He has a service dog too. Thank you for fighting for families like ours." Another, "I'm a black veteran. They took my cane once and called me drunk. You're speaking for all of us." Naomi clutched the letters to her chest, tears spilling freely. For the first time since Justice's death, she felt his absence soften, because his spirit was everywhere now, multiplied in the voices rising for her. Claire called late that night. "Naomi, I think you've become what they fear most," Naomi exhaled. "And what's that?" "A blind black woman they can't silence." The city announced a curfew at dusk, but by sundown the streets were already alive. Protesters filled every block, chanting, drumming, singing old freedom songs. Naomi, cane in hand, walked at the center of the march. Beside her, Marcus kept pace, his body a shield, his presence steady. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The sound coiled like a storm ready to break. "Naomi," Marcus murmured, "if this goes sideways, we pull back." "Understood?" Naomi lifted her chin. "If it goes sideways, we go forward." I didn't bury justice to retreat. At the courthouse steps, the protest met the barricade. A wall of officers in riot gear stood shoulder to shoulder, shields glinting under floodlights. An officer's voice bellowed through a megaphone, "Disperse immediately." This is an unlawful assembly. The crowd responded with chants louder than thunder. Naomi stepped up to the barricade, her cane tapping defiantly against the metal. "I am Judge Naomi Carter," she declared, "and this assembly is the truest law this city has ever seen." The crowd exploded in cheers, then came the hiss. A canister arced through the air, landing with a sharp pop. Tear gas billowed like smoke from a wound. Chaos tore through the night. Protesters screamed, coughing and choking as white clouds swallowed them. People stumbled blindly, tripping over barricades. Naomi's lungs burned. She clutched Marcus's arm. "I can't," she coughed. He dragged her toward cover, shouting, "Stay low. Breathe through your shirt." But another blast boomed. Rubber bullets whistled through the air. One struck a young man nearby. He fell, blood streaking down his face. Naomi dropped to her knees, hands trembling as she reached for him. "Stay with me. Stay with us." The boy groaned, whispering, "Don't stop fighting." Before medics pulled him away, Naomi's heart clenched. His words seared into her. Hours later, Naomi sat in Claire's apartment, her body still shaking. Her clothes reeked of smoke and chemicals. Claire wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "This is going too far. They're escalating. Someone's going to die," Naomi's voice cracked. "They already killed Justice. Tonight they nearly killed a boy. How many bodies must pile up before change comes?" Marcus leaned forward, his eyes heavy. "Naomi, they'll try to break you. Tonight was a message. Step down or next time it's you." Naomi's hand curled into a fist. "Then let them come. I've lived my whole life with the world underestimating me. Blind black woman, they said I'd never make it to the bench. They said I'd never last in a courtroom. They said I'd never be heard." Her voice steadied, steel beneath the sorrow. "Well, I'm louder than ever, and I won't be silenced." The following morning, the city woke to headlines. Tear gas on the blind judge's protest. Naomi Carter confronts riot police. Whose law does this city protect? Video clips flooded social media. Naomi standing firm at the barricade, refusing to retreat even as gas swirled around her. Her image went viral, a symbol of unshakable resistance. But with fame came fury. Her inbox overflowed with death threats. Cars idled outside her apartment at night. Hate graffiti was sprayed across her door. "Go back to darkness." Claire begged her to leave town, to lay low. Naomi shook her head. "If I run now, they win. They'll write me off as a scared blind woman who couldn't stand the heat." One night, Naomi sat alone in her darkened living room. She ran her fingers along Justice's empty bed. Her chest ached. She whispered, "Justice, I'm so tired. I don't know how much more I can carry." The silence pressed in, heavy and suffocating. For the first time, doubt slithered deep into her mind. What if Marcus was right? What if I'm next? But then faintly from outside her window she heard it. Voices chanting in the street. "Justice for Justice. Justice for Naomi." Her shoulders trembled. Tears welled. She whispered, "I hear you. I'm not alone." The next protest came 3 days later. This time the crowd was larger, angrier, fiercer. Students, clergy, workers, parents, children. Naomi climbed onto a truck bed, her cane steadying her as she stood before them. Her voice rose above the chaos. "They think bullets and gas will silence us. They think fear will send us home. But fear is fuel. And tonight I tell you, we are unbreakable." The crowd roared, fists raised high. Naomi lifted her face toward the night sky. They tried to kill Justice. Instead, they gave birth to a movement. And this movement cannot be gassed. It cannot be shot. It cannot be killed. The cheers shook the city's streets. But behind the roar, Naomi knew the truth. Every victory made her a bigger target. And the breaking point was still ahead. The courthouse loomed under a gray sky. For the first time in decades, its marble steps trembled, not from earthquakes, but from the thousands gathered outside. Placards waved like a forest. Justice for justice. Blind, not silent. No more blood in the streets. Naomi stood at the top of the steps, her cane planted like a staff. Her black robe billowed in the sharp wind. Marcus stood to her left, Claire to her right, both anchoring her as the chants thundered. The press surged forward. Microphones bristled. Naomi lifted her chin. Her voice carried. "They killed my guide, my protector, my eyes, because fear taught them to see threat instead of humanity. They call it protocol. I call it murder," the crowd roared. Inside, the courtroom swelled beyond capacity. Police union lawyers sat stiff-backed. The officers themselves lounged, smirks tugging their mouths as if victory were inevitable. Naomi, robe sweeping the floor, took her place at the bench. Cameras flashed. Every word would be streamed, dissected, immortalized. The prosecutor rose first. Your Honor, the city argues this case has no grounds. Officers acted within reason. The animal was aggressive. A tragic misunderstanding, nothing more. A murmur of disgust rippled through the gallery. Naomi's hands curled into fists beneath the bench. She breathed deeply, steadying her rage into razor clarity. Marcus took the stand as witness. His voice rang with fire. I was there, Justice barked once. He didn't lunge. He didn't attack. He stood between Naomi and the guns pointed at her. They didn't see a dog. They saw a weapon. They didn't see a blind woman. They saw black. The courtroom buzzed. The officers shifted uncomfortably. Claire followed, her tone sharp as glass. They laugh about it. They mock her grief. I've heard the recordings. Locker room bragging about killing her companion. That's not protocol. That's cruelty. The union lawyer leapt up. Objection! Naomi's gavel cracked like thunder. Overruled. The defense called the lead officer. His jaw was square, his gaze unwavering. We feared for our safety, he repeated, voice flat. The dog was aggressive. We acted in line with training. Naomi leaned forward. Training that teaches you to shoot before you see? Training that confuses a harnessed service dog with a threat? The officer hesitated. His silence stretched too long. Cameras zoomed in. Sweat prickled his temple. Naomi's voice cut the air. Answer, he swallowed hard. Yes. Ma'am. The gallery gasped. By the day's end, Naomi dismissed the jury to deliberate. Outside, the protest swelled. Drums thundered. Voices shook the glass. Hours later, the jury returned. Their forewoman, a young black teacher, rose. We, the jury, find the defendants guilty of misconduct, abuse of power, and violation of civil rights. The gallery erupted. Cheers and tears blended into a storm of relief. The officers' faces collapsed into disbelief. Their lawyer stammered objections drowned by the roar of the people. Naomi's gavel slammed. Order! Silence fell. Naomi's voice, low but fierce, carried. You wore badges not to protect but to terrorize. You turned law into a weapon. Today, the law turns back on you. Sentence will be passed. Justice will be served. Outside, as Naomi descended the courthouse steps, the crowd surged forward, not to crush her, but to lift her. Hands supported her arms. Voices chanted her name. Phones lit the dusk like constellations. Claire whispered, barely audible over the roar. Naomi, you've become more than a judge. You've become the verdict. Naomi paused, cane tapping the stone step where Justice once walked beside her. Her voice trembled, but her words soared. They thought killing my guide would blind me. But look. She spread her arms toward the sea of faces. I see more clearly than ever. And so do all of you. The chant rose, unstoppable. Justice for justice. Justice for Naomi. Justice for us all. The courthouse shook with the sound. And for the first time in a long time, Naomi felt the weight of fear lift, replaced by something stronger than rage, stronger than sorrow. Hope. The verdict shook the city like a tremor. By dawn, headlines screamed, Guilty. Officers convicted in blind judge case. Systemic racism exposed in court. Cops no longer untouchable? Talk shows buzzed. Commentators split. Some called Naomi a hero. Others painted her as a radical judge drunk on vengeance. But across the streets, the people's voice was clear. Murals bloomed on brick walls. Naomi, with her cane raised, justice at her side, haloed in defiance. Inside the Union Hall, panic festered. They threw us to the wolves. One officer spat. A few bad apples, that's what they'll call us. While the brass sits pretty, another slammed his fist against a locker. My wife can't walk our kids to school without reporters chasing her. They ruined us. The lead officer sat in silence, staring at his hands. His confidence had curdled into dread. They told us protocol would shield us, he muttered. But protocol didn't stand a chance against her voice. At City Hall, officials scrambled. A senator whispered, If we don't act fast, this becomes a wildfire. Calls for reform are spreading nationwide. A mayor snapped, We'll issue statements. New task forces. Promise transparency. A staffer added nervously. But Judge Carter, she isn't waiting for promises. She's forcing the public to watch. Meanwhile, Naomi sat quietly in her chambers. The robe weighed heavier now, not with fear, but with responsibility. Claire entered, carrying a folder. Naomi, the sentencing recommendations came in. Naomi touched the file but didn't open it. And the city? They're terrified, Claire replied. They want this contained. A few convictions, some symbolic policy changes. Nothing deeper, Naomi exhaled. But the people want more than symbols. They want the roots pulled up. Her hand rested on Justice's old collar, now framed on her desk. And so do I. Marcus arrived later that evening, his face alive with restless energy. The unions are fracturing, he said. Cops are resigning in droves. Protests keep growing, nurses, teachers, dock workers. It's not just about justice anymore. It's about every name carved into a gravestone too soon. Naomi nodded slowly. This case isn't the ending. It's the beginning. Marcus leaned closer. Naomi, the system's scared. For once, they're not in control. And that's why we can't stop. A week later, sentencing day arrived. The courtroom was packed again. Cameras hovered like vultures. The officers stood pale, uniforms traded for prison jumpsuits. The lead officer trembled as Naomi read aloud. Your badges gave you authority. You turned them into weapons. You treated service as domination, law as fear. For this, the court sentences you. She paused, voice steady as stone. To years in prison, stripped of your titles, remembered not as heroes, but as criminals. Gasps erupted. The officers' families wept. The gallery cheered. The lead officer stared at Naomi, eyes wide with something between hatred and awe. You ruined us, he spat. Naomi's gavel struck. No, you ruined yourselves. I only held up the mirror. Outside, the courthouse plaza transformed into a festival of resistance. Drums, chants, tears, laughter. People danced, holding signs high. Naomi descended the steps, flanked by Marcus and Claire. Reporters swarmed. Judge Carter, do you believe justice has been served? Naomi paused, the crowd roaring behind her. Justice is never finished, she said. Today we held a few men accountable. Tomorrow we hold the system that trained them. Justice isn't a verdict. It's a movement. And it belongs to the people. The chant ignited once more. Justice for justice. Justice for Naomi. Justice for all. Naomi tilted her face toward the sky. For a moment, she imagined Justice walking beside her again, head high, tail wagging, eyes bright with loyalty, her lips curved into the faintest smile. They thought killing you would silence me, she whispered. But your name has become the battle cry of thousands. The system that once seemed immovable was cracking, and Naomi knew. The fall of the badge was only the first stone loosened from the wall. The city no longer looked the same. Where once walls carried ads for fast food and car lots, now murals blossomed. Justice painted in gold, Naomi's face haloed in blue, fists raised beneath words in bold strokes. They tried to blind her. She made us see. At night, candles lined the courthouse steps. People still gathered, not out of rage now, but remembrance. Songs echoed, soft and defiant. Children laid flowers at the base of Justice's mural, whispering, "Thank you." Naomi sat in her apartment, robe draped over the chair, cane resting against the wall. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel suffocating. Claire poured her tea. How does it feel? Naomi smiled faintly. Strange. Like standing on a battlefield after the smoke clears. You breathe, but the echoes never leave you. Claire hesitated. You've become a symbol. That's heavier than the robe. Naomi ran her fingers across Justice's collar on her desk. Symbols don't cry at night. They don't wake reaching for a dog who isn't there. I'm still human, Claire. I bleed, I ache. But if being human makes me a symbol, then so be it. Marcus arrived, his voice bubbling with urgency. Naomi, you won't believe this. Cities across the country are calling. They're drafting reforms. Independent oversight boards, mandatory cameras, retraining programs. Some states are even considering dismantling unions that shield misconduct. Naomi leaned back, listening. And the people? Marcus grinned. They're louder than ever. What started as justice for justice has become justice for all. Your fight lit a fuse. Naomi's chest tightened, both with grief and pride. Then it wasn't in vain. Weeks later, Naomi walked through the park with Claire and Marcus. Without justice, every step was cautious, but the path was familiar. Children ran up, voices bright. Judge Naomi! Judge Naomi! One small boy tugged her robe. My mama says you're why the police can't hurt us no more. Naomi knelt, her hand brushing the boy's shoulder. No, little one. I didn't do that. We did that, together. The boy beamed, holding up a drawing of a dog with wings. That's Justice. He's in heaven now. Naomi's throat tightened. Yes, and he's watching us, proud. That night, Naomi stood alone on her balcony. The city lights pulsed like stars fallen to earth. She could hear distant chants still, faint but steady, carried on the wind. Justice for all. She closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. Justice, she whispered, they remember your name. They always will. The air felt lighter, as if her lost companion brushed against her once more, guiding her, not with leash or paw, but with the legacy carved by sacrifice. Months later, Naomi delivered a speech at a law school commencement. Her words, streamed live across the country, trembled with both pain and fire. The law is not marble or ink. It is not robes or gavels. The law is the cry of a people demanding to be heard. The law is fragile when hoarded by the few, but it is unbreakable when carried by the many. Remember this, justice is not mine, not yours. Justice is ours. The students rose, clapping until the hall shook. As the years unfolded, Naomi's story rippled outward. Laws changed. Some reforms held, others faltered. But the echo of her defiance, her cane striking against steel barricades, her voice piercing gas and smoke, remained etched in history. And always, alongside her name, was Justice's one evening. Years later, Naomi sat once more in the park. She was older, her hair silvering at the edges, her cane worn smooth by time. Children played nearby, their laughter filling the air. A young woman approached, nervous. Judge Carter? I wanted to thank you. My brother, he's alive because of the changes you fought for. They couldn't cover it up this time. Naomi smiled gently. No thanks are needed. Just carry it forward. That's how movements survive. The woman nodded, tears glistening. We will. Naomi tilted her face to the sky, feeling the sun's warmth. Somewhere, in the quiet of her heart, she imagined the soft press of Justice's head against her knee. And in that moment, Naomi knew. The dog they killed became more than a companion. He became a verdict. He became a movement. He became eternal.